I found my childhood letters hidden in a box my mom never wanted me to see, and each one revealed secrets about my family that left me confused, and wondering if I ever really knew them at all. I never meant to find the letters. That's what I keep telling myself anyway, but let's be honest, I was snooping. Sarah was at work, our 2 kids were at school, and I was supposed to be cleaning out mom's attic after her funeral last month. Instead I was procrastinating, going through dusty boxes that hadn't been touched in decades. The shoebox was tucked behind Christmas from the 80s, plain brown cardboard, nothing special about it. But when I lifted the lid my heart stopped. Letters, dozens of them. All in my handwriting spanning from age 6 to 16, every single one addressed to Dad, with a return address I didn't recognize. The first one made my hand shake. Dear Dad, Mom says you're on a business trip, but Tommy's dad says you moved to California with your secretary. I drew you a picture of our dog. Do you still remember Rex? Love, Mike. I'd never written that letter. I'd never even heard of a secretary. My father died when I was 5, that's what Mom told me. Paired at work. But here was proof, in my own 7-year-old scrawl, that I knew he was alive, that I'd been writing to him for years. My chest felt tight. Sarah would be home in 3 hours. The kids would want dinner. Normal life was waiting downstairs. But I couldn't move from that dusty floor, surrounded by the evidence that my entire childhood was built on lies. The second letter was, Dad, I made the baseball team. Coach says I'm really good at catching. Mom cried when I told her, but she won't say why. I think she misses you too. When are you coming to visit? I promise I've been good. Michael, I remembered making that team. I remembered Mom crying. I thought she was proud. Each letter told the same story, a kid desperately trying to maintain a relationship with a father who never wrote back. A kid who somehow knew his dad was out there despite being told he was dead. By the 10th letter, by the 20th I was angry. By the time I reached the bottom of the box I felt like I was drowning. The last letter was dated 3 days before my 17th birthday. Dad, I'm done writing. Mom finally told me you don't want contact. She says you'd have a new family now and I need to stop living in fantasies. I guess she's right, I won't bother you anymore. I hope you're happy. Michael, I'd never written those words, never had that conversation with Mom. But the handwriting was unmistakably with teenage heartbreak. Under the letters was a manila envelope marked Dio Otonepan, Mest Far Correspondencia. Inside were carbon copies of letters in Mom's neat handwriting. Dear Robert, Michael wrote again. I'm returning his letter unopened as requested. He's such a sweet boy and asks about you constantly. Are you sure you don't want any contact? Even a card on his birthday would mean the world to him. Please reconsider. Linda. Robert, I've told Michael you died. I couldn't keep breaking his heart with your silence. I hope you're satisfied. Don't contact us again. Linda. Robert, Michael graduated valedictorian. I thought you should know. He's gonna state on a full scholarship. He looks just like you. Linda. The carbon paper was yellowed with age. Some letters were water-stained. Mom's tears probably. Each one begging my father to acknowledge my existence. Each one met with silence. I sat in that attic until Sarah's car pulled into the driveway. When she found me, I was still holding the last letter, the one where Mom finally gave up hope. Michael, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I almost laughed. A ghost would have had to handle. Sarah, I said, my voice coming out cracked and strange. I need to tell you something. But first I need to find out who I really am. She sat down beside me in the dust and Christmas lights, and I showed her the letters. All of them, every lie my mother had told to protect me, every hope I'd carried without remembering. What are you gonna do? She whispered. I looked at the return address on the last letter Mom had sent. Pacific Palisades, California. 15-minute internet search later I had a phone number. Robert Williamson, age 67, married to Janet. 2 daughters, Sue and Rebecca, both younger than me, my half-sisters, living the life I never got to have. I stared at that phone number until the digits blurred together. 28 years of believing my father was dead. 28 years of wondering why I felt this hollow space where other people had memories of their dads. I'm going to call him, I said finally. Sarah squeezed my hand. Are you sure you're ready for whatever he might say? I wasn't. But I'd been carrying this wound my whole life without even knowing it existed. Now that I could see it bleeding, I had to know how deep it went. That night, after the kids to bed, I dialed the number. He answered on the 3rd ring. Hello. His voice was exactly like mine. Same cadence, same slight rasp. I almost hung up. Is this Robert Williamson? Les. Who's calling? Your son. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd hung up. Then thought Linda told you I was dead. She did. I found the letters today. Another pause. When he spoke again his voice was cold, professional. Like he was talking to a telemarketer. Michael, I appreciate you calling, but I think it's best if we leave the past in the past. I have a family now. Implicate things. I am your family. I said, hating how desperate I sounded. No, he said gently. You were a mistake I made when I was young. Linda was a nice girl, but we weren't meant to be together. I did what I thought was best for everyone. Best for who? You abandoned your son. I gave up my rights. I pay support through the state half for years. For support. I'd never seen a penny of child support. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. What support? Mom struggled her whole life to raise me alone. He was quiet for a moment. The checks go to Linda Williamson every month. If she didn't tell you about them, that's between you and her. My mother had been dead for 6 weeks. I couldn't ask her about phantom support checks or why she'd created an elaborate fiction about my father's. I couldn't ask her why she'd kept my letters instead of mailing them, or why she'd never told me he was sending money. I'd like to meet you, I said. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Michael. I know this is hard, but some doors are better left closed. Please don't call again. The line went dead. I sat there holding the phone until the dial tone became unbearable. Sarah found me on the couch an hour later, still staring at nothing. What did he say? He said I was a mistake. She wrapped her arms around me, but I felt hollow. Like someone had carved out everything I thought I knew about myself and left me empty. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all those letters, all those years of writing to someone who never intended to write back. I thought about Mom, crying over my baseball team, carrying the weight of his rejection so I wouldn't have to. I thought about the support checks I'd never seen, the half-sisters who didn't know I existed, the grandfather my own children would never meet. By morning, I'd made a decision that would destroy everything I'd built. I was going to California. I told Sarah I needed a few days to process everything. She thought I meant therapy, maybe a long drive to clear my head. She had no idea I'd booked a flight to Los Angeles. I'm not proud of the lying. Looking back, that's where everything started falling apart. The moment I decided to handle this alone instead of trusting my wife. But I was drowning in 28 years of belief, and I couldn't think straight. The flight gave me 3 hours to rehearse what I'd say. By the time we landed at LAX, I'd written and deleted a dozen different speeches in my head. None of them seemed adequate for meeting the man who'd shaped my entire life by abandoning it. I rented a car and twerked to Pacific Palisades. The address led me to a sprawling house with ocean views and a circular driveway. Everything about it screamed success, the kind of life my father had built after deciding his first son wasn't worth the trouble. I sat in the rental car for an hour, watching the 47 p.m. A silver sedan pulled into the driveway. A man got out who looked exactly like an older version of me, same build, same walk, same way of checking his phone before going inside. My father. Seeing him in person hit me like a physical. This wasn't some abstract concept anymore. This was a real man who'd made a real choice to pretend I didn't exist. I waited until 6 p.m., then knocked on the door. A woman answered, mid-50s, blonde, genuinely kind looking. This had to be Janet, the wife he'd chosen over my mother. Can I help you? For looking for Robert Williamson. I'm Michael. Son, her face went white. She glanced back into the house, then stepped outside and closed the door behind her. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I just want to talk to him. He told me you called. Michael, you seem like a nice young man, but this isn't fair to my daughters. They don't know about you, and Robert wants to keep it that way. My half-sisters were inside that house. Probably doing homework or watching TV, living normal lives with a father who showed up for dinner every night. I'm not trying to anyone, I said. I just want to understand why he abandoned me. Janet's expression softened. He was 23 when you were born. Scared, broke, in love with someone else. He made a choice that seemed right at the time. The right choice would have been taking care of his child. Maybe. But you can't change the past by forcing your way into the present. The door opened behind her. Robert stepped out, and for a moment, we just stared at each other. Father and son meeting for the first time in my conscious memory. I told you not to come here, he said. I needed to see you. Well, you've seen me. Now leave my family alone. Something snapped inside me. I'm your family. I'm your firstborn son, and you me away like garbage. Keep your voice down. My neighbors don't need to hear this. Your neighbors, that's what you're worried about. Robert looked exhausted. What do you want from me, Michael? Money, an apology, some kind of relationship, because I can't give you any of those things. I want to know why you never came to my games. Why you missed every birthday, every Christmas, every moment that mattered to me. Because it was easier for everyone that way. The honesty was brutal. No excuse, no justification, just the cold truth that abandoning me had been the convenient choice. Easier for who? For me. For Janet, for the girls. For your mother, who could raise you without interference. For you, who could grow up without the complication of divorced parents. My mother died believing you were a good man who'd made a mistake. She protected your memory while you were building a new life and pretending I never existed. Janet touched Robert's arm. Talk inside. No, he said firmly. There's nothing to talk about. But I could see the cracks in his fat head. 28 years of suppressed guilt, finally given a face and a voice. I have children, I said. A 7-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. They'll never meet their grandfather because you're too much of a coward to acknowledge they exist. Don't bring them into this. They're already in this. They're half of your DNA walking around in the world, and you don't care enough to know their names. That's when the front door opened again. 2 teenage girls stepped out, beautiful, confident, everything I imagined successful man's daughters would be. Dad, what's going on? The older one asked. Robert's face went pale. Girls, go back inside. Who is this? The younger one asked, looking at me with tears eyes that looked exactly like mine. The moment stretched impossibly long. Robert, Janet, his daughters and me all frozen in this terrible tableau of family secrets coming to light. I'm your half-brother, I said before Robert could stop me. The girls stared at me, then at their father. The younger one, she couldn't have been more than 16, started crying. Is that true? Robert's face crumbled. Dales, please go inside. We'll talk about this later. No, the older girl said. We'll talk about it now. Is this man our boring too now? Robert, you have to tell them. He looked at me with pure hatred. Are you happy now? You've destroyed my family for what? Some kind of revenge. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. But looking at those girls, my sisters crying on their doorstep, I realized he was right. I'd come here looking for closure and instead blown up the only stable family in this mess. The older girl wiped her eyes and looked at me directly. What's your name? Michael. How old are you? 3. She did the math instantly. So dad had you before he married mom. Rebecca, please, Janet said. I want to know. Do we have other brothers or sisters we don't know about? Is our whole life a lie? I watched my father's carefully constructed world collapse in real time. The man who'd rejected me to protect his real family was losing them anyway because lies always come out eventually. I should go, I said.
Yeah, you should,
Robert said bitterly. But Rebecca stepped forward. When can I have your number? I'd like to talk to you sometime, when things aren't so crazy. Rebecca, no, Robert said. Dad, he's my brother. You don't get to want to know him. I gave her my number. She gave me hers. In that moment I felt something I'd never experienced, the connection of family, recognition, the sense that I wasn't completely alone in the world. It lasted exactly as long as it took me to get back to the rental car. Because when I turned on my phone, there were 17 missed calls from Sarah. The first voicemail was concerned. Hey, you missed dinner with the kids. Call me back. The second was worried. Michael, where are you? Your phone's going straight to voicemail. By the 10th she was frantic. I called your mom's house. I called your work. I called hospitals. If you don't call me back in the next hour, I'm calling the police. The 17th was different. Cold. Final. I found your flight confirmation in your email. I know you're in California. I know you lied to me about where you were going. When you get this, don't come home tonight. We need space to figure out what this means for our marriage. I sat in that rental car outside my father's house, the house I'd never be welcome in, and realized I'd lost 2 families in one day. The flight home was a blur of panic and regret. I got to California looking for closure and instead opened wounds that would never heal. Rebecca texted me twice during the flight. "I'm sorry about Dad. He's not handling this well." Mom says this explains a lot about why he was always so distant when we were little. "I think he was carrying guilt about you." I wanted to text back, but what could I say? That I was sorry for ruining her family, that I wished I'd never found those letters. By the time I landed in Denver, I had a plan. I'd go home, apologize to Sarah, explain how she'd understand. She had to understand. But when I got to our house, the locks were changed. There was a note on the door in Sarah's handwriting. "You lied to me about where you were going and what you were doing. You chose to handle the biggest crisis of your life without me. I can't trust someone who shuts me out when things get hard. The kids are asking where Daddy is. I don't know what to tell them. Stay at your mom's house tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." I drove to my mother's empty house and sat in the kitchen where she'd made me breakfast every morning for 18 years. The woman who'd lied to protect me, who carried the weight of my father's rejection so I wouldn't have to. I understood her now. She'd seen what the truth could do. But understanding came too late. I'd already lit the fuse that would everything I'd built. That night, in a house where I'd grown up believing in a dead father who was actually just disinterested, I made the second worst decision of my life. I decided to keep talking to Rebecca. Rebecca I texted every day. What started as basic getting to know you conversations quickly became something deeper. She was smart, funny and desperately trying to understand how her perfect family had hidden such a massive secret. "Dad won't talk about you at all. Mom tries but she's walking on eggshells. I feel like I don't know who they are anymore. I keep thinking about all the time Dad seems sad for no reason. Was he thinking about you? I showed your picture to Lisa. She says you look exactly like Dad did in college. It's weird having a brother I've never met. I should have recognized the danger signs." Rebecca was 17 dealing with a family crisis, and had any new secret that made her feel special. I was 33, married with kids and should have known better. But I didn't know better. I was drowning in my own family crisis and desperate for any connection that felt real. Sarah and I went to counseling. 3 sessions of me trying to explain why I'd lied and her trying to understand why I'd shut her out of the most important moment of my life. "You chose a stranger over your wife," she said during our second session. "You trusted your father who abandoned you more than you trusted me, who stood by you for 10 years. She was right. I'd been so desperate to handle the situation myself that I'd forgotten I didn't have to be alone anymore. I had a partner, a team that actually wanted me. I was scared," I said. "I didn't know how to process it. So you lied to me and flew across the country to ambush people who didn't want to see you. I needed closure. You needed therapy. What you did was selfish and destructive." The therapist suggested a separation while worked through my abandonment issues. Sarah agreed. I moved into a furnished apartment downtown and saw my kids on weekends. Emma, my 7-year-old, asked why Daddy didn't live at home anymore. "Daddy made some mistakes," Sarah told her. "He needs time to figure some things out." "What kind of mistakes?" I watched Sarah struggle with how much truth a child could handle. "He wasn't honest with Mommy about something important." "Did you lie, Daddy?" The question hit me like a physical. "Yes, sweetheart, I lied, and now I have to fix it. Will you come home when you're done fixing it?" I looked at Sarah hoping for some indication that redemption was possible. Her face was blank. "I don't know yet, Emma." That night Rebecca called instead of texting. "Michael, I had a huge fight with my parents tonight. They forbid me from talking to you. Maybe they're right. This is causing a lot of problems for your family. They don't get to decide who my brother is. I'm 17, not 7. Her voice was shaky, defiant. Everything about the conversation felt wrong, but I was so starved for family connection that I kept talking. "What happened?" Dad found our texts. He saw that we'd been talking every day and he lost it. Said you were trying to manipulate me, trying to them through me. Rebecca, I would never. But he doesn't trust you. And honestly, after lying to me my whole life, I don't trust him either. This should have been my moment to back away. To recognize that a teenage girl was using me as a weapon against her parents, and that I was letting it happen because it felt good to be wanted. Instead I said, "I'm sorry you're dealing with this. It's not your fault. You didn't ask to be born." We talked for 2 hours. About her school, her boyfriend, her college applications. Normal sibling stuff that I'd never had with anyone. When she said she was thinking in me in Denver, I should have said no. Instead, I said, "I'd love to meet you properly." 3 weeks later Rebecca bought a plane ticket with her college fund and flew to Denver without telling her parents. I picked her up at the airport and the family resemblance was unmistakable. Everyone could see we were relayed, same eyes, same smile, same stubborn set to our jaws. "I can't believe I'm finally meeting my big brother," she said. "For one weekend I got to experience what having a sister felt like. We went to museums, ate at restaurants, talked about books and movies and all the shared interests we discovered over text. But I wasn't thinking clearly. I was a married man having an emotional affair with family connection, and I was too caught up in the novelty to see how inappropriate the whole situation had become." Rebecca posted pictures of us together on social media. Pictures that made us look like a couple instead of siblings. The first person to see them was Janet, who called her daughter in a panic. "Rebecca Ann Williamson, you get on a plane and come home right now." "Mom, I'm fine." "A 33-year-old man you barely know. He's my brother. He's a stranger who's trying to destroy our family." The second person to see the pictures was Sarah, who recognized the restaurant in the background. A restaurant where I'd celebrated our anniversary 3 years earlier. She called me while I was driving Rebecca back to the airport. "Are you kidding me right now?" Her voice was ice cold. "Sarah, I can explain. You're with a 17-year-old girl. At our restaurant, posting pictures that look like you're on a date. She's my half-sister. I told you about her. The girl looks exactly like you, Michael. People are gonna think she's your daughter. Or worse." I hadn't considered how it looked to the outside world. A married man, separated from his wife, spending a weekend with a teenage girl who shared his features. It doesn't matter what it's like. It matters what it looks like. "My friends are calling me asking if you're having a midlife crisis." Rebecca was listening to every word. When I hung up she was crying. "I'm causing problems for you too. It's complicated. I should go home. Probably, but the damage was already done. Robert called me that night and his voice was pure venom. You sick freak, stay away from my daughter. She's my sister, she's a child, and you're a predator. You don't know anything about me. I know you destroyed your marriage to play house with a teenager. I know you're exactly the kind of man I was afraid you'd become. The line went dead. The next morning Rebecca texted, Dad hired a private investigator to look into you. He's trying to get a restraining order. I'm so sorry. That afternoon my boss called me into his office. Michael, we need to talk. There are some concerning photos circulating on social media. Someone had screenshot Rebecca's posts and sent them to my company's R department. Out of context, they looked exactly like what Robert thought they were evidence of an inappropriate relationship. Sir, I can explain. That's my half-sister. Half-sister you've never mentioned in 8 years of employment. I just found out she existed. Michael, you're a rude employee, but this looks bad. Really bad. We're gonna need you to take a leave of absence while we investigate. I was suspended without pay pending a full HR review. That evening Sarah called. I want a divorce. Let me explain what happened. You don't need to explain. I understand perfectly. You chose them over us. You chose drama and secrets and lies over the family we built together. I made mistakes, but I can fix this. No, you can't. Because even now you're not taking responsibility. You're making excuses and blaming circumstances. She was right. Every word of my mouth was a justification instead of an apology. Our kids are asking why Daddy doesn't live here anymore. Emma drew a picture of our family at school and you weren't in it. That's when I knew it was over. I filed papers today. You'll be served tomorrow. The divorce was brutal. Sarah got primary custody of the house and most of our assets. I got supervised visitation and a reputation as the guy who abandoned his family for a teenage girl. Because that's what everyone thought had happened. The truth, that I'd been desperately trying to connect with sister I'd never known existed, was too complicated most people to understand. Rebecca and I stopped talking after her father's restraining order was approved. She sent one final text, I'm sorry I ruined your life. I thought having a brother would fix everything. I was wrong. I never responded. What could I say? That she was right. That my desperate need for family connection had destroyed the family I already had. My job offered to let me return after 6 months if I completed counseling and kept my personal life private. I took it because I needed the health insurance for my kids. The counseling had helped me understand what I'd done wrong, but understanding didn't undo the consequences. I live alone now. See my children every other weekend and one evening a week. They're polite but distant, the way kids get when they're protecting themselves from disappointment. Emma asked me once why I wanted a family instead of the one we had. I told her I didn't want a different family. I wanted to understand the one I came from. But you already had us, she said. Wasn't that enough? I didn't have an answer for that. Still don't. My father never contacted me again. Rebecca graduated high school and went to college across the country. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about me, or if I'm just a painful memory she's learned to forget. I found those letters looking for answers about my past, and they cost me my future. The worst part isn't the divorce or the job suspension or the whispers would I pick up my kids from school. The worst part is that I finally understand why my father walked away. Some doors are better left closed, and some families are too broken to fix. I just wish I'd learned that lesson before I broke the only family that actually wanted me.